Hey, what's up, you guys? In this video, we're gonna jump in. I'm gonna show you how to become a real estate agent, what your responsibilities are, how to make a lot of money, and what I did and what I probably should have done and mistakes that I've made to make it easier for you. So when I first started, I became an agent at Century 21 in Long Beach, which is about 20 miles south of LA, in 2008. So in 2007, the market was booming. Then it crashed, and then I became an agent. I was a little bit naive. I didn't realize the extent of the damage in the economy, and it actually kind of worked out well for me because a lot of agents, a lot of my competition fickled out of the market simply because they were used to those easy deals and they wanted to get a stable job. 2006 and 2005, you could list a property and it would just sell. It would sell right away. 2008 and 9, a lot of buyers were scared. They thought that prices were going to come down even lower, and the only people that were selling were foreclosures. People that had to sell. So I became an agent for a couple reasons. The first is that I looked around, my landlord driving a Mercedes. I'm like, wow, I'm probably paying the lease on that Mercedes with my rent check every month. And everyone that had power, everyone that had that security owned land. And the people that didn't own land, for the most part, were subject to the rents that the landlord set. So they were constantly under the thumb of the landlord. But obviously I couldn't run out and buy property. I didn't have any money. I just moved to Long Beach, California a couple years prior to skateboard. I love skateboarding, doing like odd jobs, and then I ran out of money, and that was pretty much it. So I had the option of going to college and doing that traditional route, but I started doing the numbers on it, and I couldn't wrap my head around why I would do it. I went to community college at Golden West, which is in Huntington Beach, for a few months, and then I realized, okay, I'd go here for 2 years, get my associates, transfer, go to college for 4 years or 8 years to make $100,000, and then I'd be locked in debt for maybe $100,000 worth of debt, $150,000 worth of student loan debt, which didn't make any sense because it would probably take me 15 or 20 years to pay that back, which is insane. The average payback period today is 21 and a half years. So most people probably lock in their loans at 18, 19, and they pay it back at 40. And then they go from age 40 to age 60 trying to save up enough money for retirement, which would last them from 60 to 90. So their whole life, they're stressed out, working for a boss, and constantly being under the thumb of the manager, the business owner. So I realized that I didn't want that for my life. And I wanted to get into real estate. I didn't have the money to get in, so became an agent. The cost of entry was very low. Became an agent for like $300-$400. And this was my strategy then, and now I'll share kind of what people can do now that probably a little bit easier. So at Century 21, I was in a training program. And so how it worked is every Tuesday at 7 p.m., I would go in and I would get trained on what's going to be on the state test. So we'd have 3 little practice tests, and then we'd go take the state. So 3 months of that. Then I went and took the state test. It was super easy. I feel like I overstudied for it, and became a licensed agent. Then I was working Century 21, and how the deal worked, how the structure worked when you're in training is you give 50% of your gross commissions for the first 3 deals, or $20,000. So if you do one really big deal, make $40,000 in gross commission, you give them $20,000 of it. And then after that, then it's just a standard commission split that you agree to. So now people can get their license online, do it on their own terms, and make it really, really kind of easier, more user-friendly than before. Before it was much harder. So, and still very, very affordable to do. But a couple things you want to be weary of. So being an agent, only pursue it if you're going to do it. That's it, because it's expensive. The sign up is inexpensive, the $300-$500, whatever it is, to sign up today. But what's expensive is the E&O insurance. So when you actually work at a brokerage, you're paying, typical is probably about $2,000 to $2,500, but I paid as high as $4,500 per year. So what E&O insurance is, it's like car insurance, except to protect you from lawsuits as an agent. So if a buyer were to sue you or a seller were to sue you, you'd have that coverage. Then you have Department of Real Estate fees, which can be $500-$600 a year. Then you have MLS fees, which could be a couple $100s a year. DocuSign fees, if you're going to transfer contracts back and forth between buyer and seller, another couple $100s a year. You start adding all this stuff up, and you're easily at $4,000 or $5,000 a year in fees alone. So be kind of aware of that. So if you're not going to go after the business, if you're not going to be motivated enough to go put in the hours, then I would take a step back and kind of reevaluate. Because the agent business is a great business, but you have to realize you're based on value alone. So you could be out there working your butt off, but if you don't sell, you're not making a nickel. You're not making a nickel. But if you're working really smart and you have a contact list, you have people that know, like, and trust you, and you know your market well, you'll be able to go out there and make deals happen, and you'll end up being successful. You'll end up being really successful. I mean, I've had deals. I mean, I've been an agent for so long. I have so many great deals that have worked out, and so many deals where I thought I was going to make a lot of money, and it just kind of went belly up. Like, I had one deal where I thought I was going to make 70 grand on one home seller selling their property and then buying another property right subject to the close. So they wanted to do basically a concurrent closing of both properties, and last minute the seller decided against it at signing the loan documents to buy the other property, and that was it. The deal fell apart, and I put in so much time, effort, and energy. I mean, we're talking months and months into this deal, and it just didn't work out. But I've had other deals where an agent's had the listing for a year, doing open houses every single Sunday, and the owner fired that agent, hired me, and I sold it within 10 days and made 35 grand. So there's a lot of ups and downs with the business, but just be really aware that you need that savings, you need that cushion in the bank. Otherwise, it's going to be really hard for you to have peace of mind and sleep well, and you're not going to be kind of living in that state of fear, which a lot of agents do. Because in a good market, they'll think that the money's just flying in, and then all of a sudden the market changes, and then the faucet turns off. The faucet turns off, and they don't have any money. So what we're also seeing right now is a huge shift in power. So when I first started, agents had a lot more control over the data. I mean, this is before. Now when you list something on the MLS, you'll list it and Zillow grabs it, and all these third-party Redfin, all these third-party websites grab the data. They send that data directly to your client because your client's on their automation email list, and that's it. The client has the information. They can decide either to call you and have you represent them, or call the agent directly. Whereas before, the agent controlled the data, controlled the information. So the buyers have to reach out to the agent for the deal. So we're going to see a really big shift happen with how commissions are going to be paid out, I think, in like the next 10 years, whereas how they're paid out today. So I think the agent industry is going to go through a shift, and I think right now is a tremendous time to become an agent, because you get to learn the industry, and you can still make a lot of money if you work really smart. So my strategy at Century 21 in Long Beach was pretty simple: cold calling, door knocking. I was studying scripts. There's a guy named Mike Ferry and Tom Ferry. They were really big real estate coaches. I was kind of studying their information. Mike Ferry was like the father, so he was like kind of the goat of that industry, and then his son kind of took over. But so he was doing a lot of the training, so everyone was watching his training, and that's kind of like how I got my foot in the door. But now that stuff is kind of doesn't work. It doesn't work as well. What works now is like solid relationships, like really having a relationship with someone where they know you and they have that history with you, to where they're like, okay, you know what? He's giving me good feedback. Like, I trust this person. He's not just trying to close me. He's not just trying to sell me. The hard sell, I think, is kind of it died in like the early 2000s or late 90s. So building up those quality relationships. But I've had so many deals that have happened because of me collaborating and partnering with other agents. And that was what really took me to the next level. So when I came to Beverly Hills, I tried the cold calling, I tried the door knocking, all that failed. It just didn't work. I tried it for about a month and a half, did not work at all. I didn't have the track record. I didn't have the database, didn't have any of that. I wanted to be in Beverly Hills because the price points were high. Sell a $5 million house, make $100,000 on one deal, and boom. Whereas in Long Beach, I'd have to sell 50 of the same properties, or not of the same properties, but 50 properties, go through that process 50 times, whereas I can do it one time in Beverly Hills and make the same money. So what I did do was I started cold calling agents that were crushing it in my market. I would say, I would love to do a deal with you. It would be an honor. If I found you a ready, willing, and able home seller, would you go on the appointment with me? And being that other agent, what would you say? They always agreed. They always agreed because it's just free business for them. And so what I would do is I would post an ad on Craigslist looking for prospectors. So people that were actually going to go out there and door knock and cold call and schedule the appointment in behalf of an agent that the industry already knew, the market already knew, because they've been around for a decade or two. So it was easier for me to set those appointments. And then I would become the other agent. I'd be the listing agent 2 on the listing. So they would be the main listing agent and then I would be next to them. But the reality was I was getting free training, free advice. I was learning how to qualify a buyer, how to qualify a seller, what worked, what didn't work, what I liked with their business model compared to another agent, and how I could essentially build out the perfect business by comparing 3 or 4 different business models within all the agents I was working with. So that worked out really well. And then as I was listing these properties, I was using these listings as leverage, as credibility to bring in other listings for myself where I didn't have to bring in other agents. On the side, I was also prospecting, cold calling VRBO. So people that were doing short-term leases on high-end properties, like properties $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 a month. I was cold calling those owners saying, if I found you a ready, willing, and able tenant, would you list the property with me? And if I don't find you a tenant and you find your own tenant, you don't have to pay me a commission, but just if I find you someone, will you give me the commission? And then they would agree, I would list it, and then I would build that relationship with the owner on a very small level. But that relationship would only grow over time as we got to know each other and as time progressed, as we worked together. And then I'd be more likely to get the listing on that $10,000 or $15,000 or $20,000 a month lease might turn into a $3 or $4 million sale. And you don't know where those referrals are going to go. So I was constantly figuring out creative ways to drum up business. But my main objective long-term was always to own land, to be a landlord, to have that security. Because even the most successful agents, the moment they stop selling properties, they don't make any money. The saying in the industry is you're only as good as your last deal. So if you're making $1 million a year, $2 million a year at 50 or 60 years old, the moment you stop working, all your savings is the depreciating currency every year by about 2%. So from 60 to 90, that's a really long period. Even if you're sitting on a few $1 million, by the time you get to 75 or 80, your funds are pretty much depleted. So learning about real estate, investing in the right properties, and coming at this with the right strategy is going to make all the difference. It's going to make all the difference. I think today what I would do is I would probably start online. I'd probably take the education online, get my real estate license. Then I would study the market. I would study it really well, see what properties are selling and which ones aren't selling, compare why, figure out which neighborhood is superior than the other in terms of price point and why, see what new construction projects are happening and why, figure out where the transportation and metro lines are, and see if I can position myself, where's going to be the easiest place for me to go in with a real competitive advantage and kind of spread and grow and build those relationships. Because where you make your money in this industry is the network that you have. If you have 10 or 20 or 30 clients that are worth a lot of money and they all like you, they all trust you, that's a lot of potential, they're all business partners that you could do deals with down the line. So just be sure to protect your reputation, pursue this with the right strategy, and during the next market correction, which could be in the next year or 2 years, you're going to put yourself and position yourself in a place to really capitalize on that opportunity. Because right now there's 1.2 million active agents in America. But during that recession, I bet that number changes a lot. I mean, there's over 6,000 just in LA County. So moral of the story is I love being a real estate agent. There's obviously things that I would do differently that I mentioned in my previous video. But overall, it is the best bang for the buck. and you're going to get a hell of an education. You're going to learn a ton, and I think you're going to be a better overall investor from it, from seeing what some investors are doing that have made a lot of money, and then you're going to see what other people are doing that they've lost a lot of money. So you're going to really get the sideline view of how to be successful in real estate. Thank you. Please like, comment, and subscribe.